Hi guys, and welcome back to part 3 of Klubkidz Chronicles vlog. In this section I will be continuing to talk about my music, continuing to talk about my scandal, and talk about things that happened with myself, my friends, kiss and tell, no holds barred. I'll also be discussing everything that's in my new book, Klubkidz Chronicles, and everything that's on my collection, my VidMix collection of all my Klubkidz music, being music that I've written or produced, or songs that I've performed on the Klubkidz Chronicles album and VidMix collection.
Don't know when you got it good. It's getting harder, just keeping life and soul together. I'm sick of fighting, even though I know I should. The code is fighting through each and every nerve and fiber. My broken spirit is frozen to the core. Don't wanna be here no more. Don't wanna be here no more. Wouldn't it be good to be in your shoes, even if it was for just one day? I'd stay right there if I were you. I got it harder, you couldn't dream how hard I got it. Stay out of my shoes if you know what's good for you. The heat is stifling, burning me up from the inside. The sweat is coming from each and every pore. I don't wanna be here no more. I don't wanna be here no more. Wouldn't it be good to be in your shoes, even if it was for just one day? Wouldn't it be good if we could wish ourselves away? Wouldn't it be good to be on your side? The grass is always greener over there. Wouldn't it be good if we could live without a care? Wouldn't it be good to be on your side, even if it was for just one day? Wouldn't it be good if we could wish ourselves away? Wouldn't it be good to Wouldn't it be good to be in your shoes, even if it was for just one day? Wouldn't it be good if we could wish ourselves away? Wouldn't it be good to be on your side? The grass is always greener over there. Wouldn't it be good if we could live without a care?
Well, those of you that have seen part 1 and part 2 of my Klubkidz Chronicles vlog will have heard how my Klubkidz career started, how I became king of the Klubkidz, and how my music and production career started. And then you heard how it ended in a big scandal a couple of years back. Then you heard about my trips around the world. You heard about my father getting cancer and a terrible, terrible death, which I nursed him through. And anyway, everything's in detail in the book and Klubkidz Chronicles. One section of the book I wanted to highlight how ridiculous fake news is, because really it wasn't the court system that ended my life as Jason Prince. Really, it was the fake news off of the back of a very dodgy police investigation, a very corrupt police investigation. But the fake news really took over, and especially now that the internet, there's really no restrictions, so anybody can do a vlog, or can start a website or a magazine online. And these fake news articles really exaggerated everything out of proportion, and there'd be 10% of truth in them and 90% fiction. So one section in my book, I've done a collection of headline stories that are about friends of mine. They're all true stories, and they're all about friends of mine who I've loved over the years, and things that they've done that are pretty scandalous, and presented in a way of a newspaper or a blog or an online blog or a headline like what I had happen to me, just to illustrate that it's very easy to make things sound a lot more scandalous and more terrible than they really are. So most of the people in my close friend circle have had something written about them in the book, and have had this section where they've had their own scandals and secrets blown out of all proportion, to illustrate how that can affect someone's life, and to illustrate how something relatively minor has actually changed my life completely. I mean, the police really murdered Jason Prince, because there was no way to function being Jason Prince after the way that they did their dodgy investigation just to make up their numbers of how many people they arrest or whatever they do, because it was so obvious to them on the first meeting that I hadn't hurt anybody and I wasn't likely to hurt anybody. You could see that they would do that, but they're such jobsworths, they're such idiots. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the police another time, but I am going to mention now what happened when it actually all did go to court. And those of you that saw vlog 2 will have heard about when my dad died. Obviously, when he died, he was devastated, but relieved that he wasn't suffering anymore. It was a terrible, terrible, slow and painful death. But I wasn't obviously in a good place mentally, and I was still heavily addicted to crystal meth. And but to be honest, I was, I'd before lockdown came, I'd already locked down for a year, because 90% of my friends had dropped me, and the ones that hadn't really, I was trying to stay away from them, because I didn't want my scandal to affect their lives. But most people that I thought were friends really were just more like the opposite, and made matters a lot worse. But hey ho, it went with what happened, and I don't blame anyone else for what happened apart from myself. But by the time it got to court, I'd only recently been charged. It was a year since I'd been arrested, and they arrested me twice more in that year, and had nothing to prosecute me with. So by the time I went to court, it was literally just the original the phone that I handed them originally, they did end up taking 8 of my devices, and I kept on buying a new phone and buying a new computer, and then they come around and take them. So police are thieves because they don't give them back. So they've still got them, even though I've been to court and I've been charged and everything, and they never give them back. It's not their policy to give things back. So so they've got £2,000-3,000 worth of my property still. Anyway, that's besides the point, because really everybody else thought I'd been charged, and I hadn't. I hadn't been charged for a year. When the charges finally came through, they charged me with possession of a personal amount of Class B substance, and they charged me with possession of a personal amount of Class C substance, which would have been the sort of 0.5 gram of speed and a few shots of G that I had on me the day that I was arrested. They asked me if I was on drugs, and I said yes, and I handed them to them on the first day that I was ever arrested. They also asked me for my phone and my password, and I just handed it to them. They pressed charges towards me for, I think, 30 photographs and videos which I'd taken off of Facebook and YouTube. And they put them, I think, as a Class C. I think they put them as, immoral photos or something. Anyway, but they weren't Class A illegal. However, they found on my phone, which I'd handed them, one photograph that was Class A pornographic. And anyone that knows me, I don't know what this photo is. It's a photo of a little girl. And it's a photo of a little girl doing things with vegetables. I mean, I'm not going to laugh. I have laughed because I just thought, anyone that knows me for a start, I said to the police, I don't like little girls. I don't like big girls, women. I'm completely 100% gay, and I've never looked at a woman or a girl in that way. And I certainly haven't downloaded a photo off the internet of a little girl with vegetables, okay? It's the most absurd thing to have been accused of. Now, I've tried to work out since, the police are totally useless on everything, so they never do anything, ever. So just forget anything to do with the UK police. They're far too corrupt to have a sensible conversation with. But they admitted to me that it is something that might have been sent to me without my knowledge. So either they put it on there because they'd arrested me so many times and unarrested me because they had nothing to charge me with, or it was sent to me on something like WhatsApp without me asking for it by someone. It's the sort of thing, funny enough, that Scott used to send me and laugh. Oh, look at this girl with a cucumber up her bum or something like that. It's the sort of thing he'd send me. But I don't know whether it was him or whether it was someone off of one of these kick things that WhatsApped a photo to me that I didn't want. I'm not into hardcore porn. I'm certainly not into little girls. And it's just a very bizarre thing to have been prosecuted with. Well, so I didn't know what to do. I had this duty solicitor, and I spoke to her, and her advice to me was, I said, well, what is this photo? And everything else was off of YouTube or Instagram. However, she said that because I'd done fantasy writing and had these fantasy conversations that were pretending to be real, she said if I pleaded not guilty, then we would have had to have a long trial in Crown Court, and all my friends would have been dragged into it, and everyone would have had to be witnesses and standing up in court. I couldn't bear to put people through it, to be quite honest. Plus, I'd just lost my dad, and I thought, do I want to be fighting something at this time? I mean, I'd previously had a nervous breakdown when I'd split with Matt years before, and I was on the verge of having one, and so was my mum. I just thought to myself, I think I'm just going to have to say guilty. And I said, that this hardcore photo isn't mine. And she guessed it wasn't mine, and the police definitely knew it wasn't mine, but they didn't care because they didn't have anything else to prosecute it. So they banded together lots of little things that were bad enough to press charges, because they'd wasted so much money and time in arresting me, letting me go, arresting me, letting me go, making my life a misery, raiding my mum's house, raiding everybody's houses, questioning everybody when they knew damn well that I hadn't done anything. So anyway, these and also any of the parents or any of the friends and people that have been questioned, I couldn't bear to put these poor people through anything. So I didn't want to go to court, plead not guilty, because I would have had a really long trial. Plus, my solicitor said then they would have read out any of my messages that I had on my phone, any fantasy writing. My whole life would have been totally exposed. I was already having enough problems with vigilantes and with vlogs and with gay press and everything as it was. So, her advice to me was to plead guilty to everything, and because it was only one photo that was Class A illegal, and because I didn't have any previous convictions or a criminal record, she said I was best to just do that. And then the drugs were just personal, and they weren't even Class A either, they was Class B. So that's what I did. And the day of first of all I had to go to court, magistrates court, guilty, and then I had to go to Crown Court. But in between this, when I pleaded guilty in Croydon Magistrates Court, I didn't have a lot of time really to make any decisions. I met my barrister for the first time an hour before I had to go in and do my plea, and I hadn't really decided. I'd taken the solicitor's advice about being guilty, but then on the day I thought, should I be guilty, should I not? Because this is going to be with me now for the rest of my life. And I honestly didn't have this photo of the little girl with cute hair. And I just thought to myself, what shall I do? But I was so distraught. I hadn't slept for days worrying about it. Dad had just died, Mum was ill. It was just absolutely awful. So my barrister was very nice. So I went and pleaded guilty. But there was someone there that day, I think, from the gay press, because there was people sitting there writing and stuff. And when they read the charges, it's not as you would imagine. If someone has a photo of anybody underage on their phone, it's called making. The legal term is called making. So when they read out my charges, it said making an indecent photograph of a minor, okay, which was this little girl who I didn't even know how to photo. And making isn't what I did. It sounds like I'm a porn producer or something. I was sent a photo they didn't even know I had of a little girl. So ridiculous, Jason Principle's done for a little girl. But anyway, and making certainly isn't something that, the legal term that they use is ridiculous legal term, isn't it? Because I hadn't made anything, I just received unwittingly. But unless you plead not guilty, there's no way of explaining or saying anything to the judge, because they just give you your sentence. So, but unfortunately, because the gay press was there that day, then they made even more headlines saying making, kiddie making. Anyway, so I've now been labelled with that on fake news for the rest of my life, thanks to the police and the way they use the word. So didn't know what to do from there on. And but I just went through the whole thing, and I went to court that day thinking that I could go to prison, because it was up to 8 years in prison, even though it was only one photograph and everything else was minor things off of Facebook or YouTube. That I could have fought that if I'd have been in a different frame of mind and I hadn't just lost my dad and I wasn't suicidal. I would have fought that, and I would have fought the fact that why should I be prosecuted with things that are already put up by someone else on Facebook or YouTube? I didn't put them there, I just taken them off there with a screenshot. So why are they even allowed on there? Why was I even allowed to write a fantasy story on Kick Fantasy Chat app? If you're not allowed to do that, then why do they allow these apps? I've never met anybody before, so if I hadn't been set up by the police, which is entrapment, then they managed to lose the sound recording of my meeting with the police officer as well. I didn't know he was a police officer, obviously. The man that was acting strange in the passport. So they managed to lose that. So they always lose evidence, don't they, if it doesn't suit them, because they didn't have anything to incriminate them. So, you know, the whole thing just stinks. And I'm not saying I'm completely innocent, but I'm certainly not as guilty as people think. And the person that saved my bacon really was Mum. I went and pleaded guilty, and they charged me, and etc. etc. But I didn't go to prison. Some ways that day I thought, well, you know what, I wish I'd gone to prison, because then people feel satisfied that I've been punished more than my mental punishment has already been. But and I thought it might have just been the end of it then. When I came out of the court, I thought in some ways I wish I had gone to prison, because then it's just the end of it, isn't it? And then people think, oh, he's been punished. And then when you come out, you can start a new life. But as it is, I can't really start a new life. Although, because of the vigilante situation and because of the fake news situation and etc., and the very, very backstabbing friends, I had to move away and I had to change my identity. And it's been a hard thing to deal with. I had to go in disguise, and my life was just unbearable, so I moved away. But my mum, she knows everything. I mean, I don't know how you'd feel. I just want to put something out there, okay? I just want to put something out there. Anybody that's ever taken drugs and then done something they regret, or got drunk and that, or anybody that's taken drugs and had a weird sexual fantasy that isn't in their sort of normal day-to-day run of things, I'm not sure how you'd feel if the whole of your friendship and professional circle got to hear about that, when it wasn't even something you'd done, it was just something that you'd written about, or thought, something that you'd thought but had never discussed, a private thing, a private sexual fantasy you thought but never discussed. Yeah. How would you feel if your whole family were informed about that? How would you feel if all of your friends were informed about that? All of your work colleagues were informed about something that was just a passing fantasy, it's just not even real. How would you feel? That's what I went through. So as I say, I'm not innocent, but I'm just not as guilty as what people think. And my mum had to listen and be sent things by my friends about my sexual fantasies. Would you like your mum or your parents to know about things that you've done sexually, let alone things that you haven't done that you only fantasized about? It's nothing. A fantasy is nothing. It's not real, is it? It could be as bad as you want if it's not real. What does it matter? I've got a massive imagination. You know, I write songs and I write for a living. My imagination is huge. So my sexual fantasies could go from one extreme to another, I guess. And especially under the influence of a week of crystal meth, I'd like to challenge anyone that's certainly taken that drug to have they ever had a dark thought about something. Doesn't mean they've done it, does it? Yeah. Well, anyway, my poor mother had to be sent by friends all of the vlogs and the media and the fake news and people's, you know, screenshots of different sites. My mum had to read all that. You know, at a time when she just lost my dad after 60 years of marriage. How disgusting. But anyway, she had to. I don't know why the police even let that leak. That's not protocol, surely. But they did, because, I mean, I've only got one word for police, that's cunts. So, you know, we all know they're cunts now with everything that's going on, Black Lives Matter, beating up women in parks, murdering people. They're just a bunch of cunts. So, and they always need a scapegoat, and I'm a scapegoat. But my mum was brilliant, and she managed to stand by me through it all. And I don't know how she has, but she has. And I just owe everything to her, really, because she's been really the one person that's been solid in my life, and I don't know how Brenda's done it. And she's had no support from people because they just turn their back on it, really. So, thank you, Mum.
Children are future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I've never found anyone who fulfilled my needs. A lonely place to be, and so I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. Found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all. I believe the children are future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. Yeah, I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all. two alone. Let place, find your strength in love.
So after my sentencing at Crown Court, I thought I'd be relieved if I didn't go to prison. The main reason I didn't want to go to prison was just because I couldn't bear to leave my mum when she was grieving. But as I said before, I mean, I might as well have gone to prison in some ways, because then it's just done, isn't it? It's just done. I mean, legally, for a year, because I hadn't been charged for a year, I wasn't allowed to contact legally anybody that had been questioned regarding my case. And then after Crown Court, the CPS thought it was a good idea that I still wasn't allowed to contact anybody for God knows how long after. So I've never had a chance to speak to people or to say anything. You know, Jason Prince, to be quite honest, just the first week, if I'd have been allowed, I would have spoken to people. If they'd have punched me in the face, that's it, and it's done. If they never spoke to me again, it's out of the way. But this whole prolonged thing that you're not allowed to speak to anyone is just ridiculous. So no one ever got to hear, you know, what actually happened. No one knew what actually happened. All they knew is stupid police officers that were trying to get their extra convictions from CPS. They get paid according to how many CPS convictions they get. Plus, they're always trying to cover up things that they're doing themselves. I mean, I spent a significant amount of time after my arrest researching the skeletons in the closets of my arresting officers. They've all got skeletons in there, but I know all about all their families. I've not decided what to say. And also just researching the police corruption in general. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd now. I mean, they set people up constantly, and it's constantly just to get their figures up. Meanwhile, their superiors are on the darknet murdering people, or raping people, with the cult that's infiltrated the police. But you know, that's another story. A lot of that. So after my sentencing, I hadn't realised the severity of the sentence because I didn't go to prison. I didn't think about it, and I was just I was too busy grieving. I was grieving my dad. I was grieving the loss of all of my friends. I mean, I didn't have any friends really, and I'd avoided people, and people were avoiding me, and I felt that. Not only was I grieving my dad, but I was grieving everyone I'd ever loved, to be honest, because I wasn't seeing anybody. As I say, before lockdown, I was already locked down for a year, because I just, take away my music, like what the police did, take away my career, take away my friends, take away my family, which is what they did just to try and prove the point of couple of minor offences. They just took my life. They took my life from me. And as for the future, I haven't got one. Jason Prince hasn't got a future because mud sticks, and whether people choose to believe me or not is kind of immaterial now. There's no way of taking all these things off the internet, blogs, all these fake news and people's stupid comments about it. There's no way of changing anything. And the police have rearrested me since my court case. They've rearrested me 2 or 3 times, and then they keep on saying it's a department fault and apologise to me each time they arrest me, which traumatises my mum. They turn up at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, bang, bang, banging on the door, 10 or 15 in the morning. Then they arrest me, then they look around, then they apologise because they say the department hasn't told them I'd already been to court. It's the same old time. They're just absolutely corrupt and ridiculous. It's just absolutely pathetic. But anyway, look, I don't have a future, but I've got a nice colourful past, and all of that past I've put into a book. I've got very colourful friends. I've written about everybody. Nobody's safe. Everybody's secrets, everybody's scandals, and also on my album I've included everything on my songwriting. My songwriting was really hitting a good stage when all this happened. I was writing for Gozala, I was writing for Therese, I was writing for just loads of people, and producing for loads of people. And anyway, I'm going to leave this vlog now, and you know, it's food for thought for people, and I'm going to leave you with my proudest moment, which was Love Is the Only Law, when I wrote it for 50 years, legal in this country with gay rights, and then they used it in America for Stonewall a couple of years later, so I spliced the two videos together. Thank you for watching, and look out for my book and VidMix collection and album collection, Klubkidz.
This is our new single.
Time can be a healer. It's been a long time to feel your freedom. When you're alone with what you're feeling.
Take pride in what you're feeling. Love is the only way of healing. You're not alone in this world of freedom. Love is the only law.
Half a century to be free to love.
Love is our inspiration.
5 decades on, is that enough? We're moving in the right direction.
Love is the only law. 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 50 miles eagle,
Fast as lights are peaceful.
nest and rest for marvel.
Dreams of a magic amnesty.
Lands of love and liberty. Breed your souls, embrace love. For celebrations were never about us.
Half a century to be free to love. Love is our inspiration. 5 decades on, is that enough? We're moving in the right direction.
Love is love. Love is the only law. Love is love. Love is the only law. 50 ways to equal. Last of life to blissful. Strokes of pain to marble. Notes of a vibrant melody.
Clouds of tender symphony.
Realm of love igniting us. The jubilations are now about us. Love is love. Love is the only law. Love is love. Love is the only law.
Sandy, Martina, Turing and Pacho. For every boy with attitude in his satchel. You are heroes, you are stars. Shine on brightly in all the gay bars.
For 50 years gay, you lit the way. So I say,
For Freddie, for George, for Radcliffe, for Gaga, for Elton, for Billy, for James, and John.
For Quentin, Chris.
50 ways to the evil.
Blast of light to blissful.
Strokes of paint to marble. Notes of vibrant melody. Clouds of tender symphony. Realm of love igniting us. For jubilations are now about us. About us. About us.
Love is the only law.
Loving's what you need.
Love is the only is what you need. Take pride in what you're feeling. Love, love, it's the only way of healing. You're not alone, not alone in this world of freedom.
It's not just about society accepting gay people, it's about gay people accepting
The
themselves.
only law. Half a century to be free to love. Love is our inspiration. 5 decades on, is that enough? We're moving in the right direction.
It's become more common, and it's like an emerging kind of consciousness about these identities and sexual fluidity, gender fluidity.
Love is the only law. 50 miles eagle, fast as light to peaceful. Nest and rest to marvel. Dreams of a magic amnesty. Lands of love and liberty. Breeds of souls embracing us. The celebrations were never about us. Half a century to be free to love. Love is our inspiration. 5 decades on, is that enough? We're moving in the right
I
direction.
think the 50 years since the decriminalisation act and where we are today, look how far we've
Love is the only law. 50 ways to equal. Blast of light to wistful. Strokes of pain to marvel. Notes of a vibrant melody. Clouds of tender symphony. Realm of love igniting us. For jubilations are now about us. Love is love. Love is the only law. Love is love. Love is the only law.
We got rid of Section 28. We made it legal for gay people to serve in the military if they wanted to. We made it legal for gay people to teach. We made it illegal for anyone to be sacked on grounds of sexuality. We got to establish an equal age of consent, and now it is illegal to discriminate on grounds of sexuality. So how the world has changed. It used to be illegal to talk positively about homosexuality in schools, and now it is required by the law. And that's been the revolution.
Love is what you need. Love is the only law. Love is what you need. Love is the only law. Love is what you need. Love is the only law. Love is what you need. Love is the only law.
For the ball without foul.
They blaze the trail before time. Join the pride, the long line.
For Oscar, for Bosie, for Peter, for Violet, for KD, for Stephen Fry.
For each and every one who led the velvet wire.
From the gentle boys and the tree climbing girls.
We thank you.
We thank you.
We thank you, all our heroes around the world.
Around the world.